The FA Cup replay that no one really wanted as Luton Town go to the Toughsheet Stadium in Bolton on Tuesday night to take on Bolton Wanderers with a fourth round tie away to Crystal Palace or Everton. The reward for the winners. To preview the replay alongside me, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Trust board member Helen Gatward. Are we ready to do this?
Groundhog Day.
We'll preview it after this intro.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls. We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. I'm Kev, as I said before the intro. Once again this week we're joined by the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Trust board member Helen Gatward. Before we start this preview to the Bolton episode, our condolences go out to the friends and family of Ian Perlo, the Bolton Wanderers fan who sadly passed away, having suffered a cardiac arrest during their home game with Cheltenham on Saturday. That game was abandoned, and obviously having suffered that incident ourselves last month, we know exactly how tricky and awkward the situation is. So our thoughts go out to his friends, his family, and everyone at Bolton Wanderers for what must be quite a distressing time. And we hope that anyone who saw that incident on Saturday, if they need help, please do speak up about it. As I say, I saw it myself with Tom Lockyer, and it is distressing. So if you are struggling, please do get the help that you need. There is absolutely no shame in that whatsoever. The thoughts of the podcast, Luton Town Supporters Trust, and I guess Luton fans as a whole will extend their regards, really.
Absolutely, yeah. The horrible situation sort of brings it home just how serious the Lockyer one was, wasn't it, really? And, we're obviously glad that one's okay, but, heartbreaking stuff.
Indeed. If you are going to the game on Tuesday night and you're a Luton fan, there is going to be a tribute to Ian before the game. So if you're arriving quite late, as I guess many will if they've left work late and going up last minute, if you get into the ground late, do please be aware that there will be some sort of tribute, be it a form of minute silence or something. So just be wary as you come in to the away end on the night. And I think there is some sort of tribute being planned amongst their fans as well. So we'll share that on social media if we get any details of that. But yeah, our thoughts go out to his friends, family, and all those affected. Okay, there is a replay to preview though. It's probably fair to say it's a replay that, well, we certainly didn't want in light of the fact that we've just been up there to play Burnley. And also, I think Rob alluded to it, the players were going to go on a nice warm weather training camp. Had they not have had this replay, I do believe they're going after it now, but it just altered enough plans really to make it a bit of an, not inconvenience, just an annoyance really.
Definitely. We obviously were meant to be playing Burnley on the Monday, and that was changed last minute due to having to have the replay up in Bolton. It's just an extra game that we could have done without. 2 trips up north in quick succession, as you say, is not ideal for the players or the fans. But we'll be there in our numbers to support the boys and hopefully get a result.
Indeed we will. Yeah, not overly sure of the ticket situation. Keep an eye on all the club sort of official stuff. If it may well become pay on the night, I don't for 1 minute assume that we're going to sell out that entire away end. It looks pretty big. And as I say, it probably lessens in importance after the Burnley game. But, there's a fourth round spot in the FA Cup up for grabs.
There isn't. I suppose if you can make it and you've not been able to get many games, then you've got to try and snap it up if you can. It's a long old way to go. But, despite the result, despite the game being a bit of a dud, it doesn't lessen my love for the FA Cup any less. I still want to get through it. It's going to be a very, very tough task because, as they showed, as we thought they would be, there would be a very good, confident side, and there was very little to pick between those sides in the first half. Really, it was all Luton in the second, and fair play. They dug in and restricted Luton to very little. So they've got their rewards. They've got their financial rewards as well, which you can't begrudge anyone. I wouldn't want for 1 second be giving it the Thomas Frank on this. They deserve it. They deserve the replay. Good on them. They got some cash. They're going to get some cash out of it, and they'll be thinking that they can get into the next round as well.
There was a lot of frosty comments from Bolton fans on our preview show. On our review show from the first game, telling me they came to win. I mean, come on now. Let's not take the piss. You didn't come to win. You didn't have a shot of any note on target until the 85th minute, and even James Trafford would have saved that. That's how poor that shot was. In fact, the closest she came to scoring was when our own goalkeeper tried to punch the ball away and it came off the top of his fists and thankfully went over the crossbar. So let's not, make out anything that isn't. But surely they're going to come out with a little bit more intent in this one.
Yeah, you'd think so, because they'll be at home and they'll fancy it. And Luton have got to be up to that task, really. I mean, it's a stretch to say that they'll come out and score loads of goals, because they didn't look like it at Kenilworth Road. And I think we did a decent job of talking up the likes of Dion Charles. Northern Irish international, scored a hatful in League One, but he didn't have a sniff really. And I'd fancy Luton's defence to be doing that again, to be keeping them at arm's length. But they'll this time have the noise, 5-10-fold of what they had at Kenilworth Road, and be fair to them, they were one of the best sets of fans that we've had at Kenilworth Road this season. Really loud, and that's what it's all about. That's the FA Cup, in it. They believed that some magic can happen, and they'll believe it again.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, I mean, if that was them coming to win at our place, then we should have no problems in the replay, because, like you say, they just didn't offer anything other than a goalkeeper who time wasted an awful lot. It's a big game, though, isn't it, Hajab? But do you want us to play our strongest side, kind of like we did in that first game, or is it a game that we've just played on Friday night? Let's just rest some of them. I guess the flip side of that is we don't have a game this weekend because of this stupid Premier League winter break nonsense. So there's no real harm in playing the first team again, because they're going to have the better part of 2 weeks to rest afterwards.
I think I'd go for a strong squad. I was quite surprised when I saw how strong the squad was for the first game at Kenilworth Road, and thought, actually, Rob Edwards is, he's in this to win this. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to score, forcing this replay. But yeah, I think we'll go out with a strong squad. Probably change it up a bit in the second half, so they don't have to play quite so long, maybe, and then they can go off and enjoy their break, recuperate, ready for when we're back at Kenilworth Road.
Dubai, I believe, is the destination where they're going on this warm weather train in Malarkey. So bring the sun back, lads, will you? Because by all accounts, it's going to snow up in Bolton on Tuesday. So that's happy days. If it snows, right, if any of you players, management, or anyone else are watching this, 90 minutes. Don't need no more. Don't need none of that extra time penalty cobblers that we had at Wembley. 90 minutes. If you want me to come on and score the winning goal for you, I'll gladly do it. But 90 minutes. Because I remember in this exact round last year, we were in the exact same situation at Wigan. It was absolutely Baltic, and I was about to cry. And then thankfully we scored in the last 5 minutes or whatever it was and saved ourselves. Don't need none of that nonsense again. Just someone score. Let's get home. I was going to say a reasonable hour, but it won't be at a reasonable hour anyway. And crack on. Do you see it's going full strength?
Yeah, why not? You've got this break and a winter break and a bit of warm weather stuff to look forward to. And by the way, for the interest of balance of all your Man City and Newcastle fans who had a go at me for moaning about your owners and that, I wouldn't be going to Dubai, to be quite honest. But, not my decision, is it? But yeah, go full strength as much as possible. But in saying that, full strength can mean a lot of different things, really, because Jordan Clark has now come to the fore in the last 2 games. He needs more game time. I've no doubt he'll get it. And the players that came on in substitutes did what they needed to as well, made an impact. So I think there can be a little bit of room for manoeuvre in the side, and you can still call it a strong side. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. You've got to prove that you're the Premier League side and get the job done.
Prove that we're the Premier League side. Do we need to win this, H? Because obviously under Rob Edwards, and he's cracked absolutely everything at this club, but he hasn't cracked beating lower league sides. I mean, we've obviously gone out of this cup last year at Grimsby in, has to be said, pretty embarrassing fashion, really. There was nothing in that performance at all. We were slightly better at Exeter this season, but again, we've gone out to a League One side. If it happens a third time, you're kind of like wondering why, really, because we're definitely good enough to beat these teams. And as you say, we played a team in the first game that was much stronger than everyone expected, but we still didn't win it. If we're going to play a team as strong again, they really do have to show their Premier League class and win this game.
Yeah, we've got to be winning games like this. You know, we're Premier League now. We know we've improved. We've got better. We've got the likes of Barkley, Townsend, for starters. And yeah, it's just, why can't we beat lower teams? It's almost like, I don't know, we struggle against the lower teams, but the bigger teams in the Premier League, we've really kind of gone out and stood up and gone all out. But that's what we need to do against Bolton on Tuesday, because we should have had that wrapped up in the first round, in the first leg at home.
Yeah, and I mean, that sounds disrespectful to Bolton, what I just said, and I don't mean it to sound disrespectful. It's just, cups are a big thing for Luton fans. Obviously our greatest moment was in 1988 in the cup, and since then we've had the JPT, and we've obviously had a run to the semi-final of this one, a couple of near enough quarterfinals and good runs.
30 years ago that was, but it's, this year.
It is. Indeed. But it's just like, it's just annoying, like, you want a cup run. Of course, we want to stay in the Premier League, don't get me wrong. But you'd like a cup run. You're now in one of the top 20 teams in the country. So the kind of pyramid tells you that you should have a cup run. So then if that cup run's halted against a lower league side, and I completely understand being on the opposite end of it when we've done it and killed all the giants that we did in 94. So don't get me wrong. But, days like Wembley last season were just so magical. Just to get there again would be fantastic with whatever happens in the Premier League. And so if you lose in the FA Cup to Man City or to Tottenham or to Arsenal or whoever, well, okay, that's going to happen. But at least let's get to those kind of games rather than lose to a lower league team who really and truly we should have beat it the first time around.
Well, this is what I was trying to put across in the preview podcast for the first game against Bolton. It's not that we're being disrespectful or anything, but if you're a Premier League side, and we're only just learning this now, so we're new to this, because for a long time we were playing teams and we were the underdogs, and we came close against Newcastle, first non-league team to put out a Premier League team, up at Norwich. What was that, 10 years ago as well now. And all these sort of great cup memories that we have. But when you get to the Premier League, unless you're getting to the latter stages, and certainly when you're playing teams from lower leagues, there's a saving face aspect of it. You've just got to get the job done, and you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. All you can do is win the game, and that's ultimately what you got to do. So, I want to go deep, and there's a chance to go deep in this competition, because if Luton get past Bolton, then Crystal Palace and Everton, albeit away, but beating both those sides so far, you can get into the next round, and then it starts to get a little bit more interest in the FA Cup. So, I mean, it's interesting to me anyway. I like the FA Cup, but it doesn't hold the same allure at the moment, because you can't play. It can't be a situation where you get drawn against a big team and play a big team. You're playing those now. We're getting used to that, and it's mad for me to say. I'm not being arrogant at all, but that's the world we're living now.
Yeah, it is. And also we've had like 6 months of, you don't deserve to be in the Premier League, and Luton aren't big enough to be in the Premier League, and all this crap. And then if you lose to team 2 divisions below you, then it just fuels that fire, doesn't it? So and I remember when we lost to Exeter, we hadn't won a league game at the time anyway. It was like a pylon, wasn't it? And we're doing so much good stuff. Let's just silence any of that nonsense, win the game. And like you say, Crystal Palace or Everton, I mean, it's not highlight reel draw, is it? But it's a winnable game. so many Premier League teams have already gone out of this competition, and there's loads of all Premier League ties in the next round. If you can get past this one and the next one, chances are there's only half the teams left that are in the Premier League, and then there really is a chance to do some damage.
Yeah, definitely. We need to go with the enthusiasm to win that game, get through to the next round. As you say, we've beaten Crystal Palace and Everton already this season. No reason why we can't beat them again. Keep going.
Yeah, you know, they are winnable games, and if you get past Crystal Palace and Everton, and of course we do still have to get there, I can't keep stressing that, but if we do, we're in the last 16 of the Cup. There is no fixture congestion, because the only time that it clashes with a Premier League fixture is the quarter-final, which I think, if memory serves, is when we're at Crystal Palace anyway. So the chances are, if we play Crystal Palace in the next round, one of us wins that, goes on to the fifth round. The chances are they win that fifth round, so that game gets moved anyway. So it really does open right up. And obviously ahead of the fifth round, it looks like Liverpool's going to get moved now. So that frees up that kind of area. So it's not really going to be an inconvenience in terms of the amount of games that we play, as long as we don't have to keep on needing replays all the time. But of course, there's only the next round that has replays anyway. They go from the fifth round onwards. So there's no real reason not to have a right good go at this. And it actually pisses me off when teams like, and we haven't done this, but when teams do say, you clearly rest everyone with their priority on the league, because a few wins, particularly when, you know, you're not winning many games, a few wins can do wonders for confidence. I remember, was it right back in the day when Chesterfield had that run again, and they got Middlesbrough in the semi-final, didn't they? I think Middlesbrough made the final of both cups that season.
They did, yeah.
It obviously did no harm to their form, because I think, although they got relegated, I think they got relegated on the last day of the season, but they were a lot lower down, Middlesbrough, before those cup runs. So it can actually have a positive effect if you allow it to.
Well, there's psychological aspects to all these little micro moments in football matches, and we're talking about just coming off that apparently controversial, which wasn't controversial, goal against Burnley in the Premier League, which got a point. Everybody goes into that game in the league calling that a 6-pointer. I mean, it never is, but they call it a 6-pointer. The confidence it gives Luton compared to the devastation it causes Burnley, to the point where people are crying and stuff on national radio. You can't measure that effect, but you know that it is going to have an effect. So if you go to Bolton and then don't do the job, then maybe it derails this feel-good factor that's happening. I mean, the Exeter one didn't, but it's more higher profile, I think, the FA Cup, isn't it? And Luton are so much more advanced back from when they are back then. The evolution of this team has been so rapid and steep that when you get to this stage, I think if you're not doing the job, then it could have a negative effect.
Yeah, especially when you got 2 weeks afterwards. Obviously, we won't have the Crystal Palace game 10 or 11 days later. It'll be the Brighton game, which will be the next game if we don't win this one. So you got 2 weeks dwelling on what's just happened, and then you go against Brighton, which is a tough game anyway, and it's like, oof, let's just win the game and have some positive stuff to go with. We'll come on to our score predictions in a minute, but before we do, is there anyone that hasn't been playing recently or didn't play on Friday night that you'd like to see play in this game?
Blimey, put me on the spot now.
That's what I'm here for, H.
God.
How about I throw one out at you then? Reece Burke, he was on the bench on Friday night. We were on about going full strength in this game, but would you like to see Reece Burke get some minutes in this one?
Yeah, I think before his injury, he was playing really well. So it'd be good to see him back. Even Mads Sanderson, he's another one that was having a really good run before his injury. So it could be a good opportunity to bring them back into the side.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think Mads Anderson, there's a question mark over his availability. I think he slightly pulled up, but it's been forever since we've seen Reece Burke play. He has to play, but maybe Potts as well, because he was back in the squad, wasn't he? And he hasn't had a chance yet. He hasn't had a sniff. So, well, we've previously said, I think, that I'm happy with anyone that plays in that defence, because I think they all stand up to the task, more or less. But it's maybe in the other areas where you have to be a bit more, not well drilled, but maybe in tune with the other players and what's going on. So if there's an opportunity there, perhaps I could see Cordy Wardrow coming in.
Yep, Woodrow would be another one. Obviously, Jacob Brown is back from suspension now. We don't know about his knee injury, but Rob did suggest that he'd be okay for this one. But if he's not, you got 2 weeks after, or near enough 2 weeks after this game. So, might be worth saving him for that. We've got plenty of options on that left side now anyway. We've just played Jordan Clark there for 90 minutes. Before that, Tahith Chong played there. Brown, if he's fit, can play there. Obviously, Chio can play there. Giles can play there. Doughty can play there. So there's so many options down that side. I'd like to see us go pretty strong, though. I'd like to see us get the game won, go into the next round, and take our chances in this competition, build up a little bit of momentum, particularly away from home. If we can get a couple of wins away from home, then that will do wonders when it comes to away from home in the Premier League. Obviously, if it is Crystal Palace, if you win at Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, you've got to go to Crystal Palace in the league a month later, or 6 weeks later, or whatever it is, knowing full well that you've already done it. I mean, there can't be no greater confidence boost than that. And on the flip side, they know full well that you've already beaten them in the league and will have beaten them in the cup on their own patch.
Well, I'm convinced that was the sort of part of the reason why they went full strength in the first game against Bolton anyway. It was certainly, I would imagine the game plan is to go out there and do the business quite early on. You get to either half time or the 60-minute mark, and then you change it around for as many subs as, about 5 still in it, so you can make that many subs and give other people a go. It just didn't turn out like that, because the first half was a dud, and then the second half was just them back to the wall and did a good job, to be fair. Let's be honest. You have to hand it to them and give them credit, but Luton weren't clinical enough, and they didn't deserve to get anything, so they haven't.
No, didn't. The one thing I'm looking forward to in this game, H, is if we score, we can celebrate it, because there's no VAR up at Bolton, and well, given how useless VAR was in the first game, it's certainly no bad thing that they ain't got it in the replay.
No, we won't miss VAR in this one, that's for sure. I mean, in the Premier League, we've got so used to, if we have scored a goal, it's like, can we celebrate? Can't we celebrate? Don't know if we're going to have to wait or... so yeah, if we can get some goals, it would be really good to celebrate properly and not have that worry.
Well, indeed, yep.
That's the madness of the whole thing, isn't it? That we can have VAR in one tie, in the same tie, but just like the replay, and you don't have it in the next one. And then I think they've ruled it out for later in the stage, late in the competition. I'm pretty sure I read that. They're not going to have it for semi-final. I mean, I may have dreamt that. But
I mean, you did read it. Yeah. It's for the other cup that you read it for, but the League Cup, because Middlesbrough haven't got the technology, so they're not doing it in any of the semi-finals, and no one cares about the other cup, do they? I mean, we got knocked out far too early, so...
ever since they changed the name.
I don't even know what it's called. Yeah. Just turn up and what will be, will be. Score predictions then. We got it spectacularly wrong.
We did.
In the first game, so we'll let Helen go first with this one. You honestly can't get no worse than 4-2 that we predicted in that first game. I mean, we could still be playing it now and it wouldn't be 4-2. But how do you see this replay going, H?
Well, my prediction for the game at Kenilworth Road between me and the family was 3-0. Again, spectacularly wrong. Didn't come anywhere close.
Well, he was never in any danger of the nil part being wrong, that's for sure.
No. But I would like to say for Tuesday, 3-1 to Luton. I think they will get a goal, but we'll have the upper hand.
If they do score, I hope it's Cameron Jerome who scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it would be as long as the game's done by then. I don't want any
consolation goal.
Don't want any having to fight back or anything. I'm going to think they're going to keep it tight again. I mean, they are still a very good side. They are top towards the top of League One and going really well. They would have got confidence from what they did at Kenilworth Road. I don't think it'll be pretty. I still don't think that they'll offer much if that was their best. Who knows? So I'm going to go very, very low scoring and just say 1-0 Luton.
We don't discuss this before we do these podcasts, do we? But that's exactly the same score that I think it'll be. I kind of think it'll be like the Exeter game, only we'll get the goal this time rather than them. I mean, that Exeter game looked like, until Issa made that mistake at the back stick, that they could still be playing that now. What's that, 6 months later?
Yeah.
It'd still be 0-0. But yeah, there's got to be enough talent in whatever side Rob Edwards picks for us to score a goal against this lot in 180 minutes. Again, no disrespect to them, but they're 2 divisions below us for a reason. We've, the attacking players that we've got are in form, which they weren't back then, were they? Because Morris was just about to score his goal at Everton, and obviously Elijah was still finding his feet in the Premier League. And I'm trying to think who played that night. Chong played, hadn't really done too much. I can't actually think who the other forward players were. That's how awful that night was. But yeah, so 1-0 for me. So we'd probably end up 4-2 this time, wouldn't it? We'll get it spectacularly wrong the other way round. 1-0 for me, 1-0 for James, 3-1 for Helen. Let's have your score predictions. You're still crap at these, guys, although there were 2-1 Burnleys, and you were close to that for the last game. Let's have them in the comments. If anyone gets it right, we will give you a shout out in the review podcast, which will come along later in the week, depending on how long it takes me to get back from Bolton on Tuesday night. Will depend on when we record it. No, it'll be out. It'll be out before the weekend. So subscribe to wherever it is that you get your podcast, and you'll find out exactly when it is when that review podcast drops. We are approaching 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, actually, thanks to everyone who's subscribed since we started begging and asking at the start of this month. We really appreciate it. We would love to get up to 1,000 by the end of this month. We have got a giveaway planned, and it's a good one. So if we can get to 1,000 subscribers, we will unleash that for you.
And I reckon you'd have to be a subscriber to stand a chance of winning. That's the rules, right? We just made it up.
You absolutely will. Well, if you didn't have to, you do now. So yeah, please subscribe. And as I say, when we get to 1,000, we will do that giveaway for you all. Until then, though, that's it for this episode of the podcast. My thanks to James and to Helen for keeping me company. Slightly shorter than usual, this one, but we've pretty much said everything that we had to say when we previewed the original tie. Not a great deal is going to change in 10 days. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're going, please respect that tribute before the game on Tuesday night, as we said. Be loud and be proud. It's going to be quite an atmosphere, I would imagine, at the Toughsheet Community Stadium. I've got through the whole podcast. I've not called it what I thought I would call it. So that's a result. Hopefully Luton pick up the result. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to the Hightown Club for staging this podcast. Thanks to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for the intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs and everything that you see on our set. Until after the replay, well, come on, you Hatters.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.